There are a lot of myths out there about writing a book, things that you've been misled to believe, things that you might have lied to yourself about, things that high-priced consultants might have lied to you about so they can get more money. We're going to break down those myths today. Hi, I'm Dan Janal, the author of more than a dozen books, including Write Your Book in a Flash. I'm a book coach, developmental editor, and ghostwriter, and I can help you write your book no matter where you are in the writing process. Now, let's dig in. Today, we're going to talk about 4 myths and 4 truths about writing a book. I'll go over them quickly here, and then we'll break them down. Number 1, what is the number 1 myth? It takes too much time to write a book. Number 2, you need a major publisher for credibility. Number 3, writing is lonely. Number 4, I don't have the skills to write a book. Those are some of the myths. Let's see what's true and what is false. Number 1, it takes too much time to write a book. Well, if you're disorganized and don't have a clue about what you're going to write about, yeah, it can take a lot of time to write a book. In fact, you may never finish. In fact, you may never get started if you don't have a good outline. But I want to break down something that most people don't think about when they think about a book. They think a book is like Good to Great, or In Search of Excellence, or some other book that has 350 to 400 pages that is intimidating to look at, especially in today's time-starved, crazy business, crazy busy work world. People don't want to read a 400-page book anymore, or a 300-page book. In fact, if you write more than 20 or 25,000 words, they're probably not going to read any of it because it's too intimidating. They want to get on a plane in New York and finish the book by the time they land in Los Angeles. So what does that mean? It means you have to redefine what you think about the length of a book. So we're not talking about huge books anymore. We're talking about 20 to 25,000 words. What does that mean? That's about 100 to 125, maybe 150 pages. It's an inch or so thick. It's less than an inch thick, and that's what makes the book that much more approachable and readable. And you're going to get clients if people read your book. You're not going to get clients if people don't read your book. And I want to make this a little bit easier for you if you do the math. So if we're looking at a 20,000 word book, how much would you have to write every day? Well, if you can write for 15 minutes a day, you'll have 250 words in 15 minutes. That's like a blog post. It's simple, folks. It's easy. It's like writing a short article. It's almost like writing a short email. 250 words is one typewritten page with normal spacing and normal fonts. This isn't like 8th grade where you wrote in like really big letters and use really wide margins. No, we're talking about standard typing here. So if you can write 15 minutes a day for 90 days, you'll have 20,000 words after 90 days. You'll actually have it after 80 days, but I'm giving you a little bit of time off and my math is kind of weird and a little dorky, so 90 is a lot easier to remember. 3 months, you can have a book. Now, people say it takes too much time. Well, if you don't have 15 minutes a day, then you really aren't serious about writing a book. I mean, if music teachers say you can play at a great level if you just practice for 15 minutes a day, every day, instead of practicing for an hour and a half one day a week, there's something there. I mean, there's some science here, there's some practical knowledge here that translates to 15 minutes, can lead to great proficiency. Plus, 15 minutes is just a benchmark. If you can get started for 15 minutes, your juices will flow, your creativity will flow. I guarantee you that on many days, you'll write for more than 15 minutes. It's sort of like doing that first sit-up. First one's a pain in the butt. Second one isn't so bad. Third one, you're starting to get into the flow, and then you do 4, 5, 6, 7, until your stomach is burning like hell, and then you stop because it's just not comfortable anymore. But you have that momentum, you have that flow. So if you've gone to any gym, lifted any kind of weight, gone on any kind of walk, any kind of run, you've probably experienced the exact same thing. I've heard it called the slingshot effect. So you pull it back, you get started, and boing, you eventually get it done right. So you can do that. Point number 2, actually probably more than point number 2, but this is point number 2 on the screen. Make the time. 15 minutes is not a big deal. You wake up 15 minutes earlier. You go to sleep 15 minutes later. You take 15 minutes from your lunch break. You take the kids to the soccer game. Well, spend 15 minutes in the car writing during that time or writing in the stands. So you can easily find 15 minutes a day, even if you're a crazy busy parent who has a crazy busy work schedule, you can find 15 minutes. And as I said in number 3, once you get started, you'll write longer and you'll feel better as your creative juices flow. Myth number 2, you need a major publisher for credibility. Well, let me share a little quiz with you. Who is John Grisham's publisher? Don't know? Well, okay, I'll make it easier. Who is Stephen King's publisher? You know, he's only sold 20 billion books. Everyone has a Stephen King book. Oh, you don't know that publisher either? Okay. Well, I guess we're proving here that you don't need a major publisher for credibility because no one knows who publishes a book. They don't know who publishes your book. In fact, I'm willing to bet that people who read your book or people who read books like yours wouldn't recognize a HarperCollins from a Tom Collins. So get over that whole myth about you need a publisher for credibility. Now, granted, publishers can get you your book into distribution. But then again, there's this little company called Amazon. So if anyone wants a book, they can go on Amazon and order the book. So I don't think distribution is really the great advantage that publishers give you. Number 2, people think that publishers, once you get the publishing contract, my life is over. They're giving me an advance. They're going to market my book. I'm going to become a best-selling author. Life is wonderful. Wrong. That's a myth. Publishers won't lift a finger to help you sell a book, but they'll be more than happy to take most of the profits. And if we had more time, I can go into the economics of book publishing, but let's just say that you basically get about 10% of whatever the publisher gets, which is about 50% of the retail price of the book. And that's just rough terms. In other words, you're making maybe $1.50, 75 cents a book. You'd make a lot more you'd make a lot more money if you self-publish. The third problem with publishers is that if you do get a contract, your book won't be ready for nearly 2 years. That's because they have a very long production cycle, proofreading, copyediting, layout, design, getting it into their catalog, teaching their salespeople about it, producing the book, printing, shipping, yada, 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 yada. It's a big deal. You can self-publish and really have your book listed on Amazon 24 hours after you give the okay to say this book is ready to run. So I think we've just proven the point that you need a major publisher for credibility or, frankly, for anything else. They don't add a lot of juice to the party anymore. Here's the third myth. Writing is lonely. Well, actually, that's not quite so much of a myth. It is true. Writing is lonely, especially if you want to make it lonely. On the other hand, it doesn't have to be lonely. If you don't get help, it will be lonely. So what kind of help do you need, or what kind of help can you get? You can hire a book coach. A book coach gives you accountability. They can help build your skills. You could hire a developmental editor. You could hire a ghostwriter. All those people become part of your community to help you create a great book. Number 2, you can send your book to beta readers who can give you feedback on your book. And that way, you're not operating this lonely little vacuum in this ivory tower. You're actually getting real people like your friends or your colleagues to say, hey, I don't understand this concept you have, or this diagram you have doesn't make any sense, or hey, I really love this story. It really touched my heart. Keep this story. It's wonderful. And you might say, gee, if it's so wonderful, why did I bury it in chapter 7? Maybe I should move it up a little bit higher. I do that with some of my clients as well. Number 3, you can join writers groups. Some are available in your community with meetup groups or literary functions, or even bookstores or libraries have meetup groups where you can talk to other writers. Or, thanks to the wonderful world of the internet, there are a zillion writers groups online, whether it be Facebook or LinkedIn or some other social media group.
you can find groups of people who write just like you. So if you're into science fiction or business writing or memoirs or self-help, there are plenty of groups out there that are ready, willing, and able to give you support that you need. And here's number 4. I don't have the skills to write a book. Well, let me tell you about one of my people who I interviewed on my podcast. She didn't have the skills to write the book. She didn't have time to write the book. What did she do? She dictated her book while she was stuck in traffic on the New Jersey Turnpike. I love that. So if you can't write, okay, some people can't. There's dyslexia, there's learning issues, there's technical issues, whatever. That's okay. That's true. But if you can speak, you can write a book. So you can dictate the book. You can have it transcribed for maybe $1 a minute. You can hire an editor to clean it up, and bingo, you can have a book. So that's one easy way to have your book done if you don't have the technical skills. So if you're ashamed of your spelling or your grammar, your punctuation, if you're not a native American speaker and you don't know the syntax and the cliches and all those other things, don't worry. That's what editors are hired to do. They will clean it up, they will make it look good, and frankly, everyone needs an editor. I have typos, you have typos, we all have typos. I noticed one on one of the earlier slides here. It happens, and people can clean it up. So a good editor can clean up your sloppy writing, and a good developmental editor can clean up your unfocused thoughts. And frankly, those are things that I do. I've worked with lots of business writers who needed a coach, some for accountability, some for feedback, some for some training. They wanted to get better as writers, and I helped them point out the weaknesses in their writing, and they got better as writers, and that helps them not only with their book, but it also helps them with their business writing, their email writing, their article writing, and everything else that they do, because let's face it, writing is an essential issue for people in business. I've also helped people as a developmental editor. Some people come to me with a first draft of a book, and I will review that book and say, these chapters are out of order. Or you have this story here that you thought was about trust, but it really was about loyalty. Good story, but it proves a different point. So let's put it into the loyalty section or the employee engagement section. Some people are just too close to their topics and they can't see the forest for their trees. So if that sounds like you, I'd be happy to talk to you and see if I can help you there as well. And for some people, I work with them at the very start and help them with their outlines, their deep outlines, so it can really have an outline. So when you look at that outline, you'll never have writer's block because you'll always know what to write about. So I can help with that point too. And I get people focused. As being a former newspaper reporter and daily newspaper business editor, I have those skills. I went to Northwestern University, I majored in journalism. They taught us how to write, how to edit, what to see, what's missing, how to sharpen things. And those are some of the skills that I bring to my clients. If you'd like more information or to see how it can work together, I invite you to go to my website, writeyourbookinaflash.com. You'll see lots of free resources there. You'll see links to the podcasts that I've done with people just like you, speakers, coaches, consultants, people who own businesses, entrepreneurs, people who know they need to write a book but don't know how to write a book. These were people who are just like you, who overcame the same issues that you have, and you'll hear about their stories.
You can listen to those podcasts and training videos on our YouTube channel. Click this link here to see all of our episodes.